What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Good evening. Welcome to Around the VLA. This is season 3, episode 10. My name is Rob St. Clair, live from Chicago. That is Vince Zanzucchi, the VLA Director of Operations, live from Phoenix, Arizona. Happy VLA Cup week, boys and girls. It's a great week. We're super stoked for this. It is the biggest tournament that the VLA has ever thrown. You could easily argue it's the biggest and best professional level tournament in American history, and it starts in 3 days. Friday morning in Chicago. We're getting ready to go. Vince, I haven't seen you in a while, man. I'm looking forward to seeing your face and the faces of so many others coming into my home city.
Yeah, pretty sure it's been last year's championships. The last time I actually saw you face to face.
San Diego. San Diego counts.
Oh, that's true. We were in West Division Cup. That's right. It's been a long time. So
It's been a long time.
long time since we've played. So we're excited to get after it.
Yes. So if you caught last week's show, we talked about sort of some of the storylines around the league headed into this weekend's tournament. We talked about the tier 1 standings. We talked about sort of some of the tier 2 divisional positionings on the men's side. We introduced the 8 women's teams that are going to be making their debuts this weekend, kicking off for the first time ever the VLA women's division. But now we're just going to dig into this tournament in particular. And like I said, this is the biggest and the best, in my opinion, in our opinion, and you could easily argue it, the biggest and the best professional volleyball tournament in American history is the 2023 VLA Cup. 3-day event, 36 total volleyball teams, 28 on the men's side and 8 brand new teams on the women's looking to get after it. 2 winners, 81 matches will be played this weekend between Friday morning and Sunday afternoon. If that sounds insane, that's because it is. But we are so excited for it, and we are ready to break this thing down.
Yeah, it's going to be another level of epic.
Yeah, I mean, if you've watched this season, you've seen some great volleyball. You've seen some big tournaments. You've seen some events with a million matches. The Central Division Cup certainly comes to mind. But if you watch that tournament in particular, the Central Division Cup, we are headed right back to that same building, the College of DuPage in the western suburbs here in Chicago of Glen Ellen. Beautiful 4-court facility. We can turn it into one incredible featured court for the finals. That's exactly what we're going to do. So you want to start with the men's tournament, Vince, because it's 28 teams and it's a little more complicated. I think it's worth explaining kind of how that's going to go.
Yeah, definitely. It's a daring structure, let's just say, something that hasn't really been done before with men's indoor volleyball. It's something similar actually to how AVP works, believe it or not. It's something that was heavily influenced or AVP was very influential on the VLA structure to begin with. So it kind of made sense to run this type of format as it was. So breaking it down, it will make a lot more sense for the spectators and the casual viewer.
Absolutely. So we will dig into all of that. But first, right, just before we dig into just everything here, I want to let everybody know that we'll be showing this throughout the show. This is the VLA website. The homepage of the VLA website has all the information about the 2023 VLA Cup tournament. This is the spot for everything that you need to know about this tournament the entire weekend. It is up to date right now. Everything is public. You can follow along as I'm showing it on screen or dig through it throughout on your own time, whatever you want to do. This website right here, and the link is in the description of the YouTube video. This is the spot for everything related to this weekend's tournament. It'll be live updated as the brackets move along, as the pools progress towards being done. Everything will be live updated here on the website. So this is your number one resource. A couple essentials before we dive in. Like I said, College of DuPage. You can put it in your maps software, whatever, if you're looking to come in person. We would love to have you in person. Live spectators are welcome. You can pay $15 at the door to get in for all 3 days, or I think we're charging $10 for just 1 day. Very much worth coming to see these guys play in person. Starts first thing Friday morning at 7:30 a.m. Central first serve. First serve all 3 days at 7:30. And then on the broadcasting side, the same as you've expected all the VLA Cup series of tournaments all year. So we will have a dedicated stream for every single match. Those will be here on the YouTube channel, available to members only. So if you want to watch an individual match, pick up a membership for just 99 cents a month. And if you ever need help finding a members only stream, go to the homepage of the YouTube channel, scroll over to the tab that says community and read through the community tab. That's where all the members only live streams will be posted. In addition to all the individual match streams, we will have the VLA all day broadcast going. It's been a huge hit this year for the Cup Series tournaments, where we have one broadcast from start to finish of each day, where we flip back and forth between all the courts going on and just let it roll throughout the day long. It's going to be awesome. We're going to have a bunch of guest commentators, a bunch of different people from the teams who aren't playing at the time. We'll hop on the headsets and take you through some games. So all of that right here on YouTube. You're in the right place. Anything to add to some of those essentials, Vince, or should we dive into the format of the men's tournament?
Let's dive into the format.
Let's do it. So 3 days, huge event here, 3 days, but I think it actually is, by the nature of playing 3 days, a little more spread out horizontally than a lot of the VLA Cup Series tournaments this year. So in terms of each individual team, how many matches they're going to play per day, it's not going to be any more than 2, except in the rare case that we'll talk about here on the tier 2 pools in a minute. But pretty simply, all of Friday is pool play in the men's tournament. And then first thing Saturday morning, we start the single elimination brackets on the men's side. There will be a gold bracket of 16 teams, a silver bracket of 12 teams, and those will progress to Saturday afternoon's championship matches for both. So taking a look at Friday, the way pool play is going to be broken up is that the tiers of the men's competition are going to be separated for pool play. All right. So we've got 8 tier 1 teams. All 8 tier 1 teams will be making their appearances in the VLA Cup tournament. The 8 tier 1 teams are separated into groups. We're calling it groups. It's really just one match, 4 individual matchups that each team will play one match only in group play. And all 8 tier 1 teams advance to the gold bracket. The championship bracket is 16. As for the tier 2 pools, that will be 20 teams. That'll be 4 pools of 5 teams each, and those will run bracket pool style. We've done these throughout the year, both in San Diego and in Chicago for the West and Central Cups. We'll dig into that format more in a minute, but in order to make the gold bracket out of the tier 2 pools, you need to finish first or second. If you finish first or second in your tier 2 pool, you go to the gold bracket, the championship bracket. That'll be 8 more teams that join the 8 tier 1 teams. If you finish third, fourth, or fifth, you go to the silver bracket. Third in a tier 2 pool, you go straight to the round of 8 in the silver bracket. Fourth or fifth, you have to play a play-in game in silver as well. So pool play only on Friday. Bracket play starts first thing Saturday morning. And then you see kind of the flow chart here. This is also on the website that will help you out a lot. What happens and where you move based on where you finish in your pool and if you win or if you lose. So the moral of the story here, pool play Friday. Tier 1 teams will play one match. Tier 2 will play a bracket pool, 5 teams. Bracket starts on Saturday. If you get to gold, you will play 2 matches no matter what. You'll play the round of 16. The quarterfinals, the round of 8, will be played on Saturday afternoon, so will a consolation round. And then silver, you could play just 1 match on Saturday, or you could potentially play 2. Anything to add to that, Vince, for kind of the first 2 days of the men's tournament?
One thing I pointed out earlier is the AVP kind of structure between like main draw, qualifier, and that's one of the things that this is kind of a do or die type of thing in pool play, even though it is pool play. And I think a lot of teams generally look at pool play as an opportunity to really get comfortable and things like that. It's not necessarily this way. I mean, you jump really right into a bracket. And in a sense, if you're trying to win the VLA Cup, it's an elimination from the beginning for the tier 2 team. So it is kind of that intense, right from the start. It's not one of these where you're just going to get a bunch of, lounge type games that are, these are like warm up matches or anything. I mean, these are do or die for these first rounds. And it kind of sets the tone for the entire tournament. We're right from the start, 7:30 a.m. on Friday. So, if you're going to tune in, definitely tune into those first matches because they could pretty much landscape the entire event from there. So it's not one of those things where you're just watching a couple of round robin matches and then you're gonna see them all later. This is something that's kind of do or die right away, and that competitiveness is something that we're really looking forward to.
Absolutely. Not only does it create just electric volleyball from first serve Friday 7:30 in the morning, but also there's not enough time or space to give anybody like free, nice, fun, friendly warm-up matches. This will be intense. And as far as tier 2 teams go, if you're a tier 2 team and you want to win the VLA Cup, you need to show up ready to play first thing Friday morning. And we'll talk about that 5-team bracket pool format in a minute, but the seeding and the matchups in those 5-team brackets and pools will have a lot to do with who makes it out into that gold bracket. So pool play Friday, bracket play starts on Saturday. We will get down to, let's kind of shift over a panel here. You can see Saturday's bracket play and how it progresses into Sunday. One thing that's important to note here is that every team on the men's side, no matter what, no matter where you are in the tournament, will play one match on Sunday. Everybody will play one match on Sunday, and most everybody will play exactly one match on Sunday, unless you win that semifinal match in the gold or silver bracket to advance to play in the championship match of that particular bracket. So no matter what, even if you're knocked out of uh, the championship contention in your individual bracket, you will still play a match on Sunday. But very simply, the gold bracket is 16 teams, single elimination. The silver bracket is 12 teams, single elimination. So if you're trying to win the VLA Cup, once you get to the gold bracket, once you get to that round of 16, you need to win 4 matches in a row to hoist the trophy. But like we always say in all these tournaments, every single match matters. Every match counts for points. And there's only going to be one of these 28 men's teams that wins the VLA Cup, but that doesn't mean the other 27 are going to come away empty handed. As far as placement goes, you can see like where you will finish in terms of tournament placement based on those Sunday matches, but every single match played counts for points. That'll influence the tier 1 playoff race. That'll influence the tier 2 race to get to the tier 2 championship or to get promoted within your divisions. So that's why we're playing all these matches, even after you might be eliminated from bracket content, like to win the championship in your specific bracket. We keep playing matches because every point matters.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is one where, especially from the tier 2 perspective, an opportunity for teams to grab a lot of points. They're going to get actually more, I think, than any other event, and to play light competition. So it's really a good opportunity. We try to create, maximize those opportunities for the teams to give them the most out of each event. And this is something new that we've done this year as opposed to previous years, because previous years we usually kept the semifinals and finals match for the final day, the Sunday. It was kind of more of a feature type of thing. This is the first year that we really extended, and we needed to because of the amount of teams that we have. I mean, 36 teams. We really needed to extend into that Sunday, and have a lot more opportunities to play, or create more opportunities to play. So the fact that we're able to expand into that is kind of a luxury that we've had, especially at the College of DuPage with the 4 courts. Really excited to, that we were able to branch off that much. So yeah, it's just every single, like you said, every single match matters at all times. There's never a match where, there's not implications in it. And it's always an opportunity for a team to get, one step closer to whatever goal they're trying to hit, achieve.
Absolutely. So all this flow chart here is on the website if you need to refer to it. If you get confused about the format of the men's tournament, I love this format. I want to give Vince a huge shout out for coming up with this format and laying it all out, and the number of matches and just the way that it rewards great volleyball, but also gets everybody an opportunity to compete, and then will eventually kind of sift everyone out into playing very like competition on Sunday is just a fantastic format. It's so good, and I'm really excited to see how the men's teams react to it and embrace it and navigate it strategically, because we do talk about these tournaments. They are a learning curve. Having success in these different formats, it takes some experience and takes some tournaments under your belt to really know how to manage these things. So this is the format. It's been set for a very long time, and we're excited to see how the teams digest what the best ways to attack this thing are.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's the first time we've ever taken on this exact format. So every single team in it is going to basically be going through that same learning curve, like you said.
Right. So let's take a look. Going back to the pool play structure, all that we know right now is the pools. The pools are set on the men's side. That would be the groups in tier one and the pools in tier two. We're going to dig into all those. We're going to talk about the teams. We're going to talk about the rosters. Going to make our picks, make some of our projections, and I want to start with men's tier one group play. One of the really exciting things about the VLA Cup, like the big VLA Cup, is that we get all 8 tier one teams in the same gym for the first time all year. And really for the only time all year, because only 6 of these 8 teams are going to make the playoffs, and only the teams play their own divisional cups. So this is the only time all season we see all 8 tier one teams in the same place. That's super exciting. And part of what's cool is that we get these crossover matchups between tier one divisions, teams that wouldn't normally play each other in like regular season play or divisional cup play throughout the year. So the matchups, again, this group play, just one match each for these tier one teams, and all 8 will go to the gold bracket. But we've got Team LVC out of New York taking on the Chicago Swede. We got the Chicago Icemen taking on the Northeast Force. We've got the Boston Bounce taking on the Phoenix Ascension. We've got the Indiana Team Pineapple taking on the SoCal Rising Tide. Very excited for these matchups. We did a little poll action on Instagram yesterday as once we posted these matchups. I wanted to get your input on who you thought would win. We've got 65% of the people think that Team LVC is going to beat Swede. 76% of the people think the Icemen are going to beat the Northeast Force. 57% of the people think the Bounce are going to beat Vince's Phoenix Ascension, and 58% of the people think the Rising Tide are going to beat Team Pineapple. So interested to see the public's thoughts and who ends up being right about this. But let's dive into the matchups, Vince. Where do you want to start?
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I want to point out is, we've been looking at as a league trying to implement this kind of interleague type of play for a long time. And so the fact that we were able to kind of decide, this is the VLA Cup is the best time to do it. We like the matchups that we have here, making sure that every single division is playing a different division, someone that they're not going to see. This is actually the first time matchup between Chicago Icemen and Northeast Force ever, and this is Northeast Force's second VLA Cup. So just different matchups like that are really, really intriguing, and it's good to see that we're getting a little bit more tier one type of play, and not always just the tier one teams playing against the lower ranking tier two teams to start off these events. So after saying that, let's talk about LVC and Swede.
Let's do it. So Team LVC, they won the East Division Cup. They are the reigning Tier 1 season-long champions, winning last year's championship tournament in Chicago. And this is an exciting time for the VLA, Vince, because it's right around the time when the professional seasons in Europe are ending. I do a show called the 9x9 that we did earlier tonight, where we cover international volleyball, all the leagues going on in Europe. There's really only about a week and a half left of the European club volleyball season. That's like only if your teams are playing in the championship series. Almost everybody who is playing over in Europe this season is back home by now. And this is a big time for the VLA, because those guys and girls, even as we talk about the women's division later, jump back in with their VLA teams and can appear in whatever events they want, oftentimes starting with the VLA Cup. And no team, I would say, is more affected by some overseas additions, perhaps, than Team LVC. Is that fair to say?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, every single team in the tier one team and then a handful of tier two teams are affected by it, but LVC definitely benefits the most.
And the reason why, if you watched last year's tier 1 championship, you saw Team LVC run all the way through that pool play, that bracket. They beat the Chicago Icemen 3-1 in the final. Big reason for that is an all-time great NCAA superstar, none other than Nikola Sherzhin, former National Player of the Year, national champion from Ohio State, born in France, renationalized to his parents' Polish heritage so that he could play in the Polish Plus Liga, in my opinion, the second best league in the world. You could maybe even argue the best. And so he doesn't count against the foreigner limit there in Poland, which is a big thing. But Nico's been playing in Poland for 3 years now. He's led the league in aces, in the second best league in the world at times. And it's great to have him back stateside and suiting up for Team LVC. Last time we saw him at the VLA level, he was winning a championship with Team LVC Tier 1 last year. This, I think, though, will be his first VLA Cup tournament. I don't think he's been able to make it to one of these the past 2 or 3 years. So this is really exciting to have a guy like Scherzen back in the gym this early. And next to him, a longtime VLA guy, Greg Petty, another outside hitter coming back, was the MVP of the entire league in Finland this year. And if you have those two guys as your two outside hitters, plus all the depth that LVC already has, like, good luck.
Yeah, they're in a very, very, very good position right now. Getting those two back, I mean, this is the best that they've ever looked, even with them winning the Tier 1 championships. I think this is the best roster. Unfortunately, we talked about Marshman not being able to make it. He's still in France, but
yeah, he's playing for a French league title on Saturday, so he's a little busy,
a little tied up there. Yeah, but I mean, just the fact that they still have the depth to really do a lot this VLA Cup, and they haven't had the most success so far at the VLA Cups. I mean, I think the furthest they've gotten is a quarterfinal finish in 2020. Even last year, I think they made it to the ESPN round, but still,
yeah, they got fifth. They beat the River City Flow in that fifth place
it was
game.
Still kind of a quarterfinal finish technically, but I mean that they really haven't lived up to the hype at the VLA Cup. I think that they definitely looked their best in mid-July for the championships, but I think that they are coming out with something to prove, and I think that. With this matchup right here, even though Swede does bring in some overseas guys that are going to look really good, Ethan Carroll, I'm excited to see him out there. I still think that LVC is just packing a lot of heat for this one, and they're going to be looking to roll some heads.
For sure. Team LVC, you could easily make the case that they're the favorite to win this entire tournament. Not only when you bring Nick Scherzen into a gym, not only do you get a world-class player with maybe the fastest arm I have ever seen in person. I really can't overstate that. You also get a guy who's played elite level volleyball amongst the very best players on the planet. And he brings with that this experience and this mental approach that last year at the VLA championships, when Scherzen and his dad, who's a big volleyball guy, that they brought to Team LVC, there is an even increased level of attention to detail and just sort of overall strategy and high volleyball IQ that Scherzen added to that team. So that's another thing that LVC's opponents are going to have to contend with. Oh, and by the way, we get to see Joby Ramos again for the first time in a couple months, the reigning MVP of the league.
Yeah, that's going to be another big one. I mean, they obviously did well with Luke Braswell last East Division Cup, but I definitely think that Joby Ramos, being the reigning MVP right now, I mean, you can't say enough about him and what he does to the team. So having him have the weapons that he has at his disposal to distribute the ball to, it's going to be really exciting to see them play.
Yeah, that will be awesome. So definitely be on the lookout for Team LVC. The last time we saw them, they were lifting the East Division Cup at home. See if they can come to Chicago and do the same. Their opponents, Swede, who actually have had a pretty decent amount of VLA Cup success. This will be their third VLA Cup Series tournament, but their first as a Tier 1 team. And we've talked throughout the year about how Swede has adapted and sort of changed their strategy to their new Tier 1 status and Tier 1 schedule. They are rolling deep. I'm seeing, I think, 16 bodies, maybe even 17 bodies on the roster, which is a really good sign. Like you said, they bring Ethan Carroll back from his first season overseas. He was amazing last year when Swede won the Tier 2 championship. They've just got a bunch of bodies at different positions. I think 5 middles. They bring in Nick Ramos, another outside hitter body. They've got 5 outsides, 2 very good setters, 3 opposites. Like, it's exactly the makeup of the team that is built to have success in a tournament like this. Unfortunately for them, they have to play Team LVC first thing in the tournament. But with everybody in Tier 1 making it to gold, depending on the draw that Swede gets, they can certainly make a run here.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I've always been since the beginning of their entrance to Tier 1. I've had a lot of good things to say about them, and I knew that they were going to look much better once they got these guys back from overseas. And I think that they're in a good position right now. I mean, it's tough that they're going to be playing LVC first. No one wants to see them in the first match, but the good news is they won't be seeing them until, you'd rather see them in the first match of pool play than the first round of a tournament. So
great point.
So I think that Swede is okay with the position they are in, seeing LVC here instead of at a different time.
Also worth pointing out, we talked about it on last week's show, but think about the tier one standings. A friendly reminder, kind of the storyline going into this one. The Icemen, Team LVC, and the Rising Tide have clinched playoff spots by their divisional Cup Series tournament wins. So that's 3 of the 6 playoff spots grabbed. That means there are 3 more spots for the 5 teams there that you see that don't have Cup wins so far: Ascension, Bounce, Force, Team Pineapple, and Sweet. And with Ascension and Bounce being having a decent little cushion in terms of points per match played right now, it's very likely that it might end up being 3 teams: Northeast Force, Indiana Team Pineapple, and Chicago Swede. Those 3 teams might be fighting for just one spot. And with every single match mattering a lot, we'll see how influential these group play matches in Tier 1 end up being. Like if Swede, for example, can't get any points from Team LVC, they're going to have to do some serious work in the bracket to get points, not just to try and win the tournament, but to try and make the playoffs.
Right, and it's like you said, it's going to be it comes down to every single point, every single match. There's always a possibility, so it is really going to be who capitalizes on these opportunities. The one thing too in our format, which we haven't really discussed, is that unlike Tier 2, where all the teams will play at least 6 matches, we will be playing a maximum of 5.
So, and that's only if you go to the championship. Most likely, you're only playing 4.
Exactly. So that's something to point out right there, is that the amount of opportunities. Last year's VLA Cup, I think LVC played 7 total matches, where Team Pineapple only played 3. So this format makes it to where you don't get that. You can't really go a roundabout way of going or approaching the tournament to try to sandbag in a way to try to get your extra points. I mean, you're going to be playing against the top level teams to make sure that we get the right 6 teams and going to the championships.
Very good point. So LVC versus Swede, I think that'll be the first Tier 1 group play match played on Friday. Second up, the Chicago Icemen taking on the Northeast Force. Like you said, it's really cool that these 2 teams have never played in VLA history. Now, they haven't been at that many of the same events together, with the Northeast Force being new to Tier 1 last year and not making the playoffs. But it is going to be really cool to see these 2 teams play. And there actually is a decent bit of overlap. I mean, you've got Trevor Weiskircher and Evan Lindley for the Northeast Force, both Chicago guys. And Weiskircher actually won a Tier 1 championship with the Icemen in 2021. So playing against his former team there. But other than that, it's kind of the usual suspects for both of these teams. The big one for the Chicago Icemen, though, we talked about, as they won the Central Division Cup. They did that despite being incredibly thin at outside hitter. They get Matt Slavinsky back from overseas this tournament. That is massive. He was big for them when they finished second at Tier 1 championships last year.
Yeah, him getting back, and especially with the overseas experience, because he was just out of college last year, him getting that overseas experience and getting that professional level, those professional level contacts and looks, it's going to be really big for Iceman to have that added depth on the outside, which has been a question mark for them for a little while now. They seem to have kind of found some answers. I don't know if they really see, Dave Hancock as the answer for them. I mean, he's an option, but I don't know if he's the answer. But Slavinsky playing outside definitely gives them that secured ball control that they'll need to really go a long way in this tournament.
Yeah, great chance we see Hancock play at least 2 positions, maybe even 3. I mean, we saw him at the Central Division Cup be a stud on the outside in the championship match, beating Team NV in 5 and getting on the all-tournament team. But, I mean, in his professional career, he was a middle. But then when he played in the Czech Republic briefly, he was actually an opposite. So we could see just about anything from Hancock. But other than that, it's the Iceman we expect. Sunil Thomas, Colin Merck, Matt Slavinsky will probably be one of the outside hitters. You got a little bit of Will Kraft, a little bit of Lewis Richard, Griffin Shields, Scott Sawicki, MVP of the Central Division Cup. In the middle, there will be some familiar faces for the Icemen, but we talked as well their lack of success in the VLA Cup tournaments. They got the one big one in Chicago with winning at home, Central Division Cup. See if they can do it again.
Yep, the farthest they've gone so far into the VLA Cup is the semifinal finish. So we'll see if they can improve on that.
Each of the last 2 years, right? Yeah, they lost to Ruckus in 2021, lost to Dive in 2022.
Yep.
And their opponents, go ahead.
And I was gonna say, and they have the benefit of not running into any tier 2 teams early, so that seems to be
little,
their kryptonite. So
little
that'll
jab at Tim
bode
Faulkner
well
on
for
that one.
them.
I like that. I like that. Light the fire a little bit. Yeah, the earliest they'll see a tier 2 team is the round of 16. So their opponents first, though, will be the Northeast Force. Force have a lot to play for. Not only they're going to gold, but they want to make a push towards winning this tournament, but they need points. And they really need they need them everywhere and from every opportunity. Playing only 4 matches, like you said, they need every point they can squeeze out to potentially make their first playoff ever in their second season as a tier 1 team. The roster looks, I would say, good, maybe not superstar good. No Nick Hunt, who made them a completely different team at last year's VLA Cup, getting to, I think, the quarterfinals there, which is a good finish for them. But it is basically the same roster that took them to 3-1 in Boston in the regular season earlier this year, including beating Team LVC twice. So if that team has that same mojo from that weekend, they could definitely have some success here.
Yeah, absolutely. I expect them to match up well against a lot of teams. We'll see how their first one goes against Iceman, but I think the rest of the field they match up pretty well against.
Yeah, the Force, an extremely good defensive team. Extremely good defensive team, and curious to see that matchup against the Icemen, who are pretty big and pretty physical. So that's going to be a good one. Both of those teams obviously will go to the gold bracket, but cool to see a first time ever tier 1 matchup between Chicago and the Northeast Force out of Connecticut. Next one is a very interesting one, especially with Vince here on the other side of the camera from me. The all purple teams battle, the Boston Bounce and the Phoenix Ascension. Vince, talk us through the history in this little battle between you guys and the Boston Bounce the last couple of years.
Yeah, believe it or not, we actually haven't had a whole lot of history. The first time we ever played them was last year in the championship, the elimination match to go to the semifinals, the playing match basically, and they beat us in 5. It was kind of a sloppy match. I mean, it was the floor was wet. We were flying.
Oh, I remember that.
Place and no one could stay on their feet, and we grinded, both of us, equally, desperation the entire time, and they ended up coming out on top, I think 15-12, and ended up beating us in 5. But we other than that match, we really haven't seen each other a whole lot. So I think that this is something that is it's important for both teams, because if you look at the standings where we both lie, we're right on top of each other, and we're pretty much on top of each other often. We're kind of right in that middle of the pack type of thing, and both teams have the possibility of really getting into that top 4, or we can be down in that bottom 4, and this match is pretty much the match that's going to set one of us to go to the top or the bottom. So it's kind of fitting that we play each other first in this kind of interdivision match, and I wouldn't really want to have it any other way. I think it's a good matchup for both teams, and I think that it's going to kind of define the rest of our season. I think it's really a lot of implications into this one.
Totally. I couldn't have said it better. This is kind of a straight up head-to-head matchup of 2 teams that are in about the same spot in the tier 1, just sort of perception and the rankings and where they're at in their franchises, but a straight up battle head-to-head for who is probably going to be considered a contender and might determine who locks up a playoff spot even, versus who will kind of have to claw through the rest of the tournament to stay at that level. I think that's huge. Going to be really, really fun too. The play styles and sort of the familiarity that the league has with both these 2 teams, because I'm looking at the Boston roster. It's a decent amount of the usual suspects. I mean, they do get Neil Ferraro back from the Czech Republic. That is huge, because he is unbelievable and can play both in the middle and on the right. They also get Tommy Carmody, which is a cool pickup. He's a Chicago guy, went to Pepperdine to play in college. He's 6'10". He's gigantic. I can't wait to talk to him and see what the connection is with the Boston Bounce there. But other than that, it's a lot of the guys that we've seen for Boston this year. And we know that their top level lineup, like their starting 7 of probably Jeff Vautrin, Brad Borsay, Greg Woods, probably Ferraro and Kaufman in the middle, and then any of their setters like that. Those best bounce lineup players can do some serious damage. My question is, how are they going to manage this tournament? Who are they going to put out and when? And I'm sure, Vince, you're very curious about the exact same thing, who you're going to see on Friday afternoon.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm definitely curious to see. I mean, I know my lineup. I'm not going to spill it right now. My guys may or may not know. I don't know. I think I told Sam. But they're ready to go, and we're kind of along that same route. I mean, we have the pretty much the exact same guys that have been playing for Ascension for years. It's not anything new really, except for we do add Patrick Ross, who just got back from playing in Denmark. As an outside hitter, and then we're going to try to match a 6'10" with a 6'10" guy. We're bringing Brendan Hart back. He just gets back from playing in Slovenia, so we got him on the opposite. So we're bringing a little bit more firepower than what we've had this season so far. But we're pretty much kind of the same type of thing. We're the usual suspects. It's going to be a very similar rematch to last year's quarterfinal match in the championship. So, but again, I mean, that was a good best of 5 match. I think that you're going to get a pretty great match between the two of us. So I don't think this is going to be a slaughter by any means for any team.
How nice is it going to be to not have to play Brian Lewis every moment of every match, to have a 6'10" guy who just played a year overseas as another amazing option at opposite? That's a luxury your team maybe has never had before.
I'm not a big fan of it, honestly. I like to ride Brian as far as I can take him. But he might like it. He might be okay with it. I mean, for the last couple of years, our success really has kind of depended on whether or not Brian Lewis performed or not, and luckily for us, most times he does. So this year it's nice to have that option to where he doesn't have to grind the entire time. I know he loves it. I just know his body hates it. So we'll see. You're going to see a good majority of Brennan coming back and has had limited reps with us so far. So we'll see how that connection kind of goes. But I'm looking forward to what Brennan can do. I'm looking forward to getting him that opportunity. I'm looking to forward to seeing Patrick Ross and Charles Polnow, from Ben U. He's had a great season for us so far. Arguably, I would say potential all VLA type of season so far with the wins that he's provided for us. So I would definitely like to see how they do and give us that younger spunk compared to what we've kind of had for a long time. So it's going to be exciting for us to get out there and play against these teams.
Plus one of my favorite young middles in the league, and Jonathan Bishop, who I absolutely love to watch. So yeah, I like this Ascension versus Bounce game. Like you said, it was crazy competitive the last time you two played. According to the Instagram poll that I brought up earlier, that one was the closest by far of the 4 matchups that the fans voted on. And I'm kind of expecting the same thing. I have a tough time picking it. So we'll go through all of our picks for these matches after we talk about this last one, and that is Team Pineapple against the SoCal Rising Tide. And these are two teams in completely different positions right now, because the Rising Tide, they're good. They won the West Division Cup in San Diego. They are in the playoffs. They don't need to do anything in particular in this VLA Cup. They're just going to play it for seeding when they do get to the playoffs. Team Pineapple is a completely different story. They laid an egg in Louisville, 0-4, 0 points. They need to make a push here to make the playoffs, and they have a ton of bodies to help them do so. I'm just not sure that Team Pineapple even knows who they are and what guys to put on the floor to help them figure that out. But also, we've talked about in the past, the Rising Tide does not travel away from the West Coast very well. And this Rising Tide roster that I'm looking at is nowhere close to the one that we saw win the West Division Cup. So I think there's a chance that Team Pineapple catches a huge break here and catches a really good team on a significantly weaker weekend. And if they do that, they have got to take advantage.
Yeah, I think one of the, is insider intel that I have. I think that one of the keys is that Rising Tide also won't have Chris Cons until Saturday. So I think that, like you said, I think that's a good opportunity for Team Pineapple to kind of get their best foot forward in this event. If they don't, I mean, this could be a big blown opportunity for them. And Rising Tide could coast in this match for sure. But it could be one that Team Pineapple can steal. So, I mean, like you said, it's really how both teams kind of approach it. If Team Pineapple can put it together, good opportunity. However, Rising Tide also has a good opportunity to play against a team that's really trying to figure themselves out, and a team that really doesn't have to. Their backs aren't against the wall. They're just kind of not going through the motions, but they're playing good volleyball, and they just have to take it easy and play the way that they do. So it's going to be interesting. This is actually an intriguing matchup because of those reasons.
Right. Yeah, I don't exactly know what to expect. I think it's the matchup that I know the least about right now, but I think it's a massive opportunity for Team Pineapple. I think they really got a pretty fortunate draw here in a Rising Tide team that doesn't need anything in particular out of this weekend's tournament in terms of the season long race. And though it looks to me like the roster that they've fielded reflects that, and that they're not exactly putting the same foot forward that they put in San Diego to win the West Division Cup. So Team Pineapple needs this match. But we talk about it in volleyball, we talk about it in sports, the effects of pressure on your team's performance. The pressure is absolutely on Team Pineapple in this match and in this entire tournament to right the ship after Louisville, to make the playoffs. This is the only Founding Five match, by the way, in these Tier 1 group play crossovers, which is cool. But all the pressure is on Team Pineapple right now, and I'm curious to see how they respond from it.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting matchup and a great, final match as far as the Friday nights go. Definitely something to feature.
Right. So that's about it for Tier 1 group play. Who are your picks, Vince? Go through the 4 matches and give me who you think is going to win.
First one, I'm definitely going to have to go LVC. I've picked Swede at ill-advised times quite often this year, but I can't do it on this time. I'm going to go with LVC on this first one. And then, go ahead. Let's go ahead. Let's hear yours.
All right, I've got LVC as well. I think that's a slam dunk. I think LVC is a legitimate contender to win the whole tournament.
Yeah, I agree with that. Next one, I'm going to have to go Iceman. I think Iceman, easy to pick the favorite here. I just think Iceman is playing at a really high level right now, and I think that they just have a little bit too much depth. I think they can kind of play around a little bit, and I think that they will take advantage of their opportunity here, especially playing at home at College DuPage.
Yeah, they've had certainly recent good vibes at that venue winning the Central Division Cup. For some reason, I kind of like the Northeast Force in this matchup. There's not really any logic behind it. I just kind of have a feeling. I also that they need it more. With all 8 of these teams going into the gold bracket regardless, these matches kind of do speak to me in terms of who needs it more. And so the teams fighting for playoff spots need it more. And I have a feeling they'll come out a little hotter. Don't be surprised at all if the Northeast Force takes the first set in that particular match, or maybe the Icemen come out a little bit sleepy because they understand the format. They understand there's not that much stakes on that match in particular. You know what? I'm going for it. I'm going to pick the Northeast Force. I'm going to do it. Right. I think they're going to pull off the upset. And also my Icemen friends here in Chicago will give me a hard time, but every time I pick against them, they come out and win. They won the Central Division Cup. They won in Louisville, so maybe I'm just pulling the reverse jinx on them. We'll see.
There you go. All right, let's see.
All right, you want to pick your game? Let's hear who you think.
I will tell you one thing that's different with this matchup compared to the other 3 is that a team wearing purple is going to win.
Wow, bold prediction, Vince.
Yeah, no. I gotta go with my guys. They're working their butts off right now. I know they are, and I know that they've been looking forward to this for the last couple months. And I'm not gonna do the Joe Namath or anything like that, but I have a lot of confidence in my guys going into this one. So. I'm just going to have to go with myself. In my
I expected nothing else. And just to put a needle in you a little bit, I'm going to pick Boston. I'm going to pick Boston just because it's fun, just because it's good content for the people. I think Bounce go out and crush Vince's Phoenix Ascension team. Yeah. No, seriously, I think that'll be the best match of the 4 for sure. I actually think that'll be the best match of the 4. But I am going to pick Boston. I think they're going to be nasty in the middle. Curious to see how you guys handle that. How about Pineapple and Rising Tide?
I'm going to have to go with Rising Tide on this one. Rising Tide had a great season this year. I still like the guys that they got on the roster. And I think that the way that they play together, when it's loose, I think that they do a good job of playing against teams that have their back against the wall. and they have just like kind of a personality where when they think they're better than you, then they definitely play better than you. If they start to get a little fear in them, if Pineapple goes up 1 or 2, I think Pineapple will finish it off for sure. But if Rising Tide can jump on them really quick, I think Rising Tide will really take it to them.
That is a good point. I think the Rising Tide is as good as anybody at playing loose and having fun and turning that into playing great volleyball. But I've got Team Pineapple here. I think they will rise to the occasion, and I think that Loy Ball's presence alone will help them navigate a pressure situation and turn it into good volleyball. I mean, the VLA Cup for many people is going to be the highest level of volleyball that they've played, but Loy has an Olympic gold medal, so it's nothing that he hasn't seen before. If he's around, Team Pineapple's always got a chance. I'm going to pick him to get that one done.
Yeah, that's a very, very safe bet when you got Volleyball on the bench.
That's right. Okay, so that's it for the Tier 1 group play. Just one match. Those are going to be really fun on Friday afternoon. Let's move on to the Tier 2 side on the men's side. 20 Tier 2 teams. That's ridiculous. There are 20 total teams in the Central Division Cup alone. And we've got like one like subdivision of one side of one of the tournaments that has 20 teams. So Tier 2 is insane. It's actually the same format as the Central Division Cup as far as pool play goes. It is a 5-team bracket. And you might be familiar with this. Check out the bracket on your screen here or check it out on the website. What's really important to point out is, like Vince said, like we were talking about in the flow chart of the men's tournament, it's basically single elimination. If you're a 2-2 team and you're trying to win the VLA Cup, it's basically single elimination from the first match. Remember, you have to finish first or second to make it to the gold bracket out of Tier 2. That means you have to make it to that match 5. You have to make it to match 5 on that screen right there. If you do that, you will get to gold. So that first match of the morning, match 1, the 4 seed versus the 5 seed, elimination game, straight up. That second match of the morning, the 2 seed versus the 3 seed, an even spicier elimination game, because the loser of that cannot possibly get first or second, but the winner of that is guaranteed to get first or second. So that second round of games on Friday between the 2 seeds and the 3 seeds might be the best of the entire tournament. It's going to be incredible. And then all the 1 seeds have to do is hold seed. All they have to do is beat the 4-5 seed winner, and they will go to gold. But like we saw in Chicago, the Central Division Cup, of the 4 pools, 2 of the 1 seeds lost to their 4 seeds. So anything is possible here. Huge implications in these pool play events with not everybody making it to the bracket. So without further ado, I think we should jump into the Tier 2 pools. Vince, anything to add to that before we do?
No, I mean, just like we pointed out, it's very similar to that AVP qualifier type of format. AVP qualifier, I mean, you show up at 8 in the morning and you can play an 8 a.m. match and be out by 8:30.
Yep.
And so at least in this, you get to play a lot more volleyball. So, but no, I mean, it is kind of a do or die type of thing, type of format, and it is going to create the best type of volleyball that you can see. And all these teams are going to come out ready to throw bows. So I'm excited to see and get there. That 7:30 matches are going to be really exciting.
They are going to be awesome. Without further ado, let's jump into the Tier 2 pools. Again, 4 pools of 5 teams each on the men's side in Tier 2. We've got them labeled with the double letters. So this one is Pool Double A. A couple familiar faces here, but the 1 seed that needs a lot of explanation. Vince, tell us, who the heck is Team Novice? Tell us about this team, the 1 seed in Pool Double A.
So Team Novice is essentially I don't know if you guys heard of this team before, but Ruckus, a bit of a rebrand here. Team Novice is basically using the Ruckus points and their status to rebrand and kind of go in a different direction to basically create what is a group of college players and just graduated players that are able to compete and play in the VLA Cup. So it's going to be really, really intriguing to see how they come out and play against the professional level that we have, them coming from their college teams. And so yeah, it's complex, but it needed explanation. But I don't think it's really that complex. It's basically a ruckus rebrand as far as the point value and everything goes, which was why they received the number 1 seed overall. But then they also are the rebranded to the apparel sponsor of the VLA. Team Novice, and they are represented by the NCAA and NAIA athletes.
Yeah, kind of in the same vein as the Emiola team that won last year's VLA Cup. Now, there were some veteran guys on that Emiola team, Serge Ndazin, CJ Suarez, like some of the others that were there on the bench that contributed. But the guys that really won them that tournament, in my opinion, were like a Kyle Hobus, like a Bryce Dvorak, like an AJ Wilmot, like the guys that were fresh out of college or still in college last year. This Team Novice team is kind of that, like an evolution in that same direction. And it's under the same management. It's still under Christiana Murray's management, same as Emiola, same as Team Envy, who is also in this pool, which could be very interesting. But Team Novice is going to be super good. They've got guys representing some very big programs: Long Beach State, Concordia, USC, Hawaii, Northridge, just to name a few. So we're going to be posting more about their roster later on this week. But just because Team Novice isn't a team you've heard of before doesn't mean they're not deserving of the number 1 overall seed in Tier 2.
Yeah, and there's definitely players on this team that have had some VLA experience and success with on that roster. So it's not like this is just a bunch of no names that are coming out here and taking the 1 seed in the Tier 2. This is a really, really good team, and they're definitely going to be some lively arms and very athletic. So it's going to be really neat to see how they play against a little bit more of the experienced veteran type teams out there.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating. I mean, we just had the NCAA championships wrap up over last weekend with UCLA beating Hawaii 3-1 in the final. That was one of the best NCAA finals I've seen in a decade. That match was awesome. And it's always cool to see kids that play in college that are very much in a volleyball flow and in shape. They're playing 5-6 times a week with one another constantly. What happens when you take a kid that's coming from the NCAA or NAIA system, put them with some new teammates, but still they're still really fresh, they've still got volleyball on the mind? How quickly can they bond as a team and produce great volleyball versus some of these guys on these more established VLA teams who don't play nearly as often in terms of number of practice reps, but who have played together a whole lot more? That's always a very interesting style counter. So Team Novice is going to make their debut on Friday against the winner of the 4-5 seed matchup here, the Steel City Surge out of Pittsburgh and the Beer City Brewers out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. Two teams that both played in the Central Division Cup and who've both played a decent amount of Tier 2 exhibitions. Vince, what are your thoughts on those two?
This is a tough one, in my opinion. I think this is going to be one of the better 4-5 seed matchups here. Surge has done really well at times, but it depends on the roster that they field. I mean, they look great when they played in Pittsburgh about 3-4 weeks ago, but then when they went and played, there was another event that they played, and I thought that they were going to sweep it. They ended up going 0-3. So there's just they're kind of inconsistent. The roster that they're fielding right now, I like I like what they got. I like their opportunities, and I think that they are going to do well against Beer City, who's a little bit more new to the game. They bring a lot of intensity. They're like I said, relatively fresh, but I think Steel City Surge is going to have a little bit more experience going into this one. I think it's going to give them a little bit of an advantage.
Yeah, Surge is a better ball control team. They have more high level volleyball experience than the Brewers do. I like Steel City to win that one, but I don't think that either of those teams are going to be able to beat Team Novice. I think Team Novice, just the young, fast, explosive, athletic, that alone is going to take them pretty darn far. So that's kind of one side of that miniature 5-team bracket. The other one is two very interesting teams. The 2 seed in this pool is the New York Lost Travelers, Terrence Crosshand's guys out of Long Island, the only team to play all 3 divisional cup tournaments this year. And then Team NV out of Las Vegas, who finished second in both the West and the Central Division Cups, but didn't win either of them. And so they're a 3 seed. They've gotten already 29 points this year, which is insane. But Team NV against the Lost Travelers in the first round, that really intense 2 versus 3, basically an elimination game. Who do you like in that one, Vince?
I got to pick Team Envy. Nothing against Lost Travelers. I like what Lost Travelers is doing as a program. I like what Terrence is doing. I like that the guys have consistently been together playing. I just think that Team Envy just brings a little bit better of a level. And they're always just kind of a favorite, really, to place and possibly win any of these cups. So they've had the success. They have Joe Kaliakamo, who's arguably the best player in the VLA. So I really don't think you can go against him. I think anyone's foolish to pick a team against him, but at the same time, I think that if anyone can win this one right here, I think Lost Travelers has the potential to play a solid match and potentially upset them.
Yeah, so this Team NV squad, we've talked about them a lot this year. They basically wrote the book on how to have success in the VLA Cup Series tournaments. They won the VLA Cup in 2021. They won a handful of the divisional cups both last year. They won the Central and the West Division Cups last year before coming in third in last year's VLA Cup when they were playing as Ruckus. The reason why Ruckus got so many cups and points is because of a lot of these guys who are now Team NV and who have started from 0 points this year and are already up to the 3 seed line after playing only 2 tournaments. But these guys have had so much success at the VLA level. They know exactly what it takes. Christian Amura builds teams for these formats to have success. Coach Stefan Brule, he's done this. He's had success. Joe Kay, Michael Wexter, Caleb Denmark, Garrett Como, like these guys have done it. They have won these tournaments before. The difference is the rest of the league is caught up since Team NV wrote the book on these tournaments. And Team Envy isn't rolling in quite as deep as some of the times we're used to seeing them. I see 11 guys on the roster right now. I'm a lot more used to seeing them roll in with 15 or 16. And that's 15, 16 guys who can all start at a moment's notice and win them the tournament. So we've seen the rest of the league catch up to Team Envy this year. Team Envy is coming up just barely short in the 2 tournaments they've played so far. So they're not the powerhouse, the terrifying powerhouse that they once were. But at the same time, you can absolutely never count them out or pick against this team. So I like Team NV to beat the Lost Travelers as well. And then at that point, I would think it would be both Team Novice and Team NV to move on. Those two would play head to head. And I have no idea how to pick it. I think there's too many unknowns about Team Novice, but it'll certainly be a good match.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing, though, I would like to point out about Team NV is that like you said, not having the same success as they had before. Both events that they've played, both West Division and Central Division Cup, they've not only lost the championship, but they lost a pool play match. And so,
good point.
This, and that comes to a little bit of roster management. I mean, obviously, I think Dimes and Dive, who had both won those pool play matches against him, are fantastic teams with a lot, to play for. But I think if Team NV sleeps on either, they most definitely could end up with a loss here against either one of them. So it really is how they approach it. I know that they have sometimes come into matches a little bit lackadaisical early. I know that they don't really like that time change from the West Coast, but we'll see how they come out. But I just can't. I think that Team Envy wins the pool.
You think Team Envy wins the pool? Okay, yeah, I could definitely see it. One thing that's worth pointing out here, the New York Lost Travelers, I mentioned they've played every Cup Series tournament. They've got a bunch of points. They're sitting at 30 right now cumulatively, but they're sitting 1 point behind the Kentucky Unicorns. And if the Lost Travelers aren't happy about their seed, about having to play Team NV in the first round of the tournament with, like, if you lose, you're eliminated from gold. If they don't like that seed, they probably shouldn't have forfeited their consolation game at the East Division Cup. That was a chance to get points. If they had played that game, they could have jumped over the Kentucky Unicorns and have had a completely different seed if they had even played that match. So just a good reminder that every match and every tournament matters a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something we always point out, just the more you can play, the more opportunities you have. So, and give, that's why we're in the position that we are. There's, good seeds, bad seeds. There's good draws, bad draws across the board. this is just kind of how every single tournament ever kind of pans out.
That's right. So let's move on to Pool Double B, the next pool in the Tier 2 side. The number 1 seed, the Cleveland Kong, winners of last year's East Division Cup. And like we talked about last week, because of that one Divisional Cup win for Cleveland, they're going to be on the 1 seed line in basically every tournament they play. And that's going to give them advantageous first-round matchups. However, in this particular tournament, I would not like to be in Kong's position because the winner of the Milwaukee Gold versus Southside XP match that they're going to have to play first thing with the tournament on the line, not going to be easy because of how good the Milwaukee Gold looks. I think the Milwaukee Gold is going to win this pool. Now, that sounds ridiculous, but Gold were really good at the Central Division Cup. They almost beat Team Pineapple in pools, and all they did was go out and get 2 pros from Loyola Chicago in Colin Mahan and Ian Cowan, a setter. Cowan actually played for the Cleveland Kong in the Central Division Cup, which is very interesting. But Colin Mahan is a guy that we know, a guy that has played VLA ball in the past, that is an absolute superstar caliber outside hitter. And they have Ben Playstead on the right, who's just as good. This Milwaukee Gold team will stomp the Southside XP out of Chicago. And I think that Gold will beat the Cleveland Kong in the second game.
Yeah, it's a tough draw in these 5-team bracket pools because that first team, the first match, they get one under their belt, and then a 1 seed essentially has to go in and play that team, just fresh, and the other team's just getting going. So I mean, if it's going to happen, it's definitely this match, and I could definitely see Gold. Like you said, Colin Mahan, great outside hitter. They're going to look really good, and they've looked good so far. I mean, even without him, so they're definitely not a team that you really want to see your first match after they've already played one. So Kong definitely has their work cut out for them in this one. But I think this is one of the tougher pools by far. I mean,
it's a really tough pool.
Great teams. I mean, you got Unicorns and Columbus Crimson, who have seen each other 2 million times already this year.
They played so much.
But I mean, all 3 of these teams, Crimson, Unicorns, and Kong. I mean, they play each other nonstop, and now here they are all in this pool battling it out, and two of them may not even make it out of the pool. So this one's a pretty tough pool. If there's a pool of death, this may be it right here.
It might be because, the Columbus Crimson have been up and down throughout this year, but they've added some huge pieces for this tournament, none other than 2021 VLA Cup all-tournament team opposite Colin Hackworth, a name that we haven't heard from in the VLA in a year or two. When he lived in San Francisco, he played for Sport Connects in 2021 when they got third. He was unbelievable. He's since moved to Chicago, but he hasn't been healthy in a long time. So we haven't. I expected him to see him play for the Icemen at least last year. We haven't seen that because he's been dealing with a couple injuries, like an ankle and a shoulder. But he's 6'9". He's got great overseas experience, but he's an Ohio guy. He's Ohio born and raised before he went and played in college at Lindenwood. So a pickup with Columbus for him actually makes sense. And he is the big banger of a point scorer that they have been missing this entire year, having like medium amounts of success in the VLA Cup tournament. So the Crimson versus the Kentucky Unicorns match is going to be insane. We've talked about the Unicorns, second at the East Division Cup. They've beaten 3 Tier 1 teams this year already, and they have maybe the best outside hitter duo in the league in the Pieper brothers. That matchup is going to be awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be really good, and you can't say enough about Hackworth. I mean, he completely dominated the West Division up until this pretty much Sport Connects folded, and he was actually my pick to begin with to be VLA all tournament if had they made that championship. But I mean, huge pickup for Crimson. Hopefully he's healthy. I'd really like to see him playing his full game because you hate to see a guy of that caliber kind of limping into anything. But yeah, this is going to be an insane matchup. And I mean, we've seen these teams already. We've seen different versions of these teams. This is a huge rivalry. They're not far from each other geographically. It's going to be great to see. And they have so much to play for because they literally are battling in that division race. So actually, I think Unicorns may be in Central Division, and yeah, so maybe not a division rivalry there, but definitely geographically close to each other. So yeah, so it's going to be great to see this matchup.
Yeah, Unicorns versus Crimson going to be awesome. Kong versus the winner of Gold and XP, which I really think will be the Milwaukee Gold. That's going to be awesome. I will pick. I mean, we've seen it in just about every tournament this year with the 5-team pool. One of the 1 seeds is gonna lose. It's just gonna happen. It's the only way that a team can play 3 matches in a pool is if the 4-5 seed winner beats the 1 seed. I think it's going to happen in this pool. I think the Milwaukee Gold will beat the Cleveland Kong, and maybe they even win the pool. But at least I think the Milwaukee Gold are going to gold. No pun intended.
Yeah, I think my pick right now to win the pool is I'm going to have to go with the Unicorns. I think that they're in the right place right now. I think that they got a lot of mojo going. I think that they are the ones that are going to walk away with this pool, and I we'll definitely see them in gold. I'll just say that.
I agree. I agree with that. All right, let's move on. Pool double C. The third pool on the men's tier 2 side. We got Emiola, the 1 seed, the reigning champions of this tournament. They won last year's VLA Cup in pretty ridiculous fashion. That was on ESPN. It was a crazy match. They beat the Milwaukee Dive 3-1 in last year's final. But this Emiola team will be different than last year's team. It'll be a lot more similar to the Emiola teams that we've seen so far this year, have like mediocre at best finishes in the West and Central Division Cups. I mean, some of the usual suspects. Serge Nadazhdin is a monster. CJ Suarez, one of the best liberos in the league. Noah Taitano and Eric Ensing sharing the right side spot. David Grandy setting. Connor Doherty, Ian Castellana in the middles. It looks like they do get Matt August, which is a very nice pickup. I was wondering if we were going to see Matt August and for whom. But what does Emiola have to do, in your opinion, Vince, to get back to the sort of elite level that we saw Matt last year? I mean, in Chicago, they were one of those 1 seeds in their pool that got upset by their 4 seed.
Yeah, I think one of the things here, they play a lot together, and that really benefits them. I think getting that a little bit stronger middle presence, nothing against Castellana or Doherty, who I think are great middles, but getting Matt August really helped push them a little bit more. And Sergeant Dawson, you can't ever count him out of any match. He's a guy who can literally put a team on his back and carry him. So it's kind of whether or not they do that. The other thing too is CJ Suarez has kind of been in and out with the team. He hasn't really been consistently there. So I don't think he was in Central Division Cup, if I am mistaken.
No, he wasn't.
Yeah, and so having him there, I mean, arguably one of the best liberos in the league, I think makes a huge difference for them, because he definitely wasn't in. He came at the end of the West Division Cup. He didn't play during
That's
it. So
right.
I think that those little factors, having those consistent players, high level players, is going to help them in this pool. I personally think that they look good in this pool. I don't think that nothing against Kingsman or Midwest Mac, but I think Emiola is in good shape in this pool.
I agree with that. I think this is one of the weaker pools overall in tier 2. I think a lot of these teams, like for example, the 4-5 seed, the Colorado Kingsmen and the Midwest Mac, I think are going to be sort of some of those teams that are going to get a lot of points out of this tournament by playing like competition and like down the road later in the tournament. And that starts with playing one another first thing on Friday. But whoever wins that match, I don't think is going to have a chance against Emiola, to be honest. But then the other matchup, the 2-3 matchup, the 630 Buddy Bears out of suburban Chicago, and then the Madison Inferno from Wisconsin, that's a little bit lopsided too. Like the Buddy Bears have shown flashes of extremely good volleyball this year, and the Madison Inferno have not. I'm pretty sure they finished dead last at the Central Division Cup. No, they did beat the Beer City Brewers in the very, very last consolation game in the silver bracket. So they finished 19th instead of 20th. But like the Inferno, as good as they are at running a club and at playing a lot and at being active, they have not had very much VLA Cup Series tournament success. So I think there's going to be a lot of chalk in this pool. I think that Emiola and the Buddy Bears are going to go to the gold bracket. Whichever one wins the pool isn't going to matter all that much, but I think you can draw a pretty clear line here at the top of the screen versus the bottom.
Yeah, I will say this about Madison Inferno is that when they played a little bit more locally, because I know that they have traveled to different places to play, and have done okay. They've got their points here and there. They played a local event back in February, and against some really good teams. I believe Gold was there. I think that Kong may have been there. I know Crimson was there, and they played extremely well there. I think they came out with like 4 or 5 points in that event, and so I think that they have the capacity to do it. It's just them and Buddy Bear see each other a lot. I mean, they're right next to each other. I think that I think Buddy Bears kind of has their number at the moment, but this is a good opportunity at the same time for Inferno if they're going to go and get into Gold. I mean, I feel like they're liking their look a little bit better against the Buddy Bears than, say, maybe running into the Unicorns or maybe a Team Envy. So I don't think that they're disappointed in their draw right now. I think that they're looking at this like this is a good opportunity for us to get into the Gold bracket.
Yeah, it's big that they're on the 3 seed line and that they've gotten all those points over the last 2 years from playing a lot of exhibitions and slowly but surely climbing up the ladder in tier 2. And because of that, all they have to do is win one match. If they win that one match against the Buddy Bears, they're in the gold bracket, and that's just it. However, I'm still not convinced by the Inferno's ball control. I do not think they're a good ball control team. I think the Buddy Bears are, and the Buddy Bears have way more wing firepower than the Inferno does. So I like the Buddy Bears in that one, but those 2-3 matchups are going to be so insane. Like the second round of matches on Friday that are basically elimination games as far as gold contention goes. So that's going to be a good one. But I have to predict a lot of chalk in this pool.
Yeah, I would agree. I would if I were picking teams, the 1 and 2 in this one, I think Emule and Buddy Bears go.
I agree. All right, last but not least, the last pool on the tier 2 side in the men's division, pool double D. We have the Milwaukee Dive, the 1 seed here. Second place in last year's VLA Cup. They were just amazing in that tournament, beating the Icemen in the semis before losing to Emiola in the final. And the only thing that you could argue that Milwaukee was missing last year was an opposite. And sure enough, now they bring back a all-tournament opposite from the Central Division Cup, Mitch Perinar, a monster of a left-hander. And they have 2 more options in Tomas Goldsmith, who can play both wings, and Connor Orion, who's amazing in the middle but can also play on the right. So Milwaukee has gone out and have fixed their opposite issue. They bring Ryan Coonan back from another year overseas. He's a 6'9" outside hitter, just casual. They have great middles, Wyatt Patterson, and they have maybe the best player in the league in Tyler Wills. I don't think that's that crazy to say at this point.
No, I would definitely agree that he is on that top tier for sure of players in the VLA.
So Milwaukee is going to be the heavy favorite in this pool as the 1 seed. They're going to take on the winner of the Niagara Frontiersmen and the Seattle Riptide. That's a match that I'm looking forward to. Both teams that have played a little bit. The Frontiersmen played a lot more. We saw Seattle play the West Division Cup in San Diego, picked up, I think, just 1 point. I think they got a point from a 5-set loss, but finished dead last. And they did the same last year's West Division Cup. So they have not had any VLA Cup Series tournament success yet in the Pacific Northwest. But I know they're looking for it, and they know what it takes at this point. Same though with the Frontiersmen. They're usually a team that scraps here and there, might win a pool play game, but usually will end up playing consolation matches. 2 teams with a lot on the line, both like desperate for points in that 4-5 game. Neither of them have a chance against the Milwaukee Dive. I'll put that out there right now.
Yeah,
not a chance.
I'm a big fan of Seattle Riptide. I love the Pacific Northwest. I'll just say it. I've been saying it for years. Really happy Chris Linky and the boys are heading out to Chicago for this one because I think it's one of those things where I think that they just need to continue to get that experience and to put their brand out there, build a little bit more. It's obviously. Men's volleyball is a growing sport across the country, and different little pockets are growing here and there. And I think this is a big deal for them as far as showing, in their community, hey, we can play with these guys. We can get out there and compete. And I know that they can. I've played against them a lot. It's just about them actually getting out there and doing it. And I'm really happy that this is their third VLA Cup event, or VLA Division Cup, VLA Cup event. So I'm happy that they're getting out here and getting their opportunities to play and see some other competition outside of their local little area. But with that said, Frontiersman is a bit more experienced. They've played a lot of exhibitions this year, even though they've lost a lot of exhibition matches. They've still played them. So
Right.
The fact that they're out there competing, and they field a good roster. They're still a little dangerous. So do they pose a threat to dive? No, I don't think that they do. But is this a meaningful match right here? 4 and 5, Seattle Riptide, Niagara Frontiersman. I absolutely think both of them are really gunning for this first win. So I like this matchup to begin with, because I think both teams are kind of fighting for the same type of thing.
Exactly. Yeah, Riptide. Chris Linke, great guy from the Seattle Riptide. I know for a fact, Chris, I know you're watching. I know that you've had Matt West in the gym. I know that he has been there. I've seen him. You need to get him to one of these tournaments. You need to get Matt West. You can even let him play outside hitter. I know that's what he's been doing up there in these Seattle tournaments since he came back from Poland. We need Matt West in a VLA uniform. So, Chris, make it happen. Make it happen. Moving on from that, though, is potentially my favorite match in all of Friday, Vince. The Dallas Dogs versus the River City Flow in the 2-3 game, like with elimination from gold on the line, is going to be crazy. And this is going to be the best editions of both of these two teams that we've seen all year. We saw Dallas have huge success making the big splash in San Diego earlier in the year. They beat Emiola, their first match out. I think they at least finished in the top 8, if not better than that. And we finally get the River City Flow at full strength. Sam Alvis will be there. They've got both setters, Drucker and Rivera. They've got all 3 middles. They've finally got some size on the outsides. This will be the best version of both of these teams that we've seen all year, and it will be a slugfest. And it's just a shame that one of them is not going to go to gold.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can't say enough about what the Dogs have accomplished in such a short span this season, playing only a couple of events, really jumping out and getting a bunch of points, making themselves a huge contender for promotion in the West Division. So they are playing for a lot, but they kind of know where they're at. They have a lot of experience together. They play really well together. And I know firsthand, because the first set that we played against them in the West Division Cup, they obliterated us 25
yes,
to 13.
They did.
I mean, we turned it around after that, but I mean, they showed what they can do, and it was not pretty to be on the opposing side of that. So, but Flow, on the other hand, a little bit more experienced group. Again, another team that plays together a lot. Now they're getting Sam Alvis back, and I think that they've really underperformed this year. Overall, I think that Dogs, on the other hand, have rode into some of these events a little shorthanded. So I think that they have a little bit more potential with the way that this format goes. It is tough for both of these teams to see each other in the first game, or the first match, because like you said, I mean, these are gold division level teams, and one of them, I mean, if one doesn't win this match, is my pick actually to win the silver bracket. So
I agree. I completely agree with that.
So it's going to be a battle. I mean, both of them are going to come out with a ton of points in a successful VLA Cup, but it's whether or not they do it as a silver winner, or possibly a top 4 type of team to win, to go in the tournament. So the gold bracket. So we'll see what happens. But I mean, this is an intense first match.
For sure. I mean, this River City Flow, listen to this potential starting lineup. Nick Drucker at setter, or Anthony Rivera for that matter. Sam Albus at opposite, Nestor Payne, Graham Gresham in the middles, Quentin Moore, Colton Stone on the outsides, and Mike Brewer at libero. That's a top 8, maybe even top 4 team in this tournament, and they're going to be fighting for their lives first thing on Friday morning. Like, that's just so electric.
Yeah, no, it's going to be amazing. So I'm really looking forward to that match for sure.
Totally. So that'll do it for the Tier 2 pools. That is 20 teams, 4 pools of 5. Again, take a look at the bracket format. It's all on the website. This will be going down basically all of Friday. Especially these Tier 2 matches are going to dominate a lot of the Friday schedule. So all that is up on the website right now. You can take a look. Vince, are you ready to move on to the women's tournament? About time we give the ladies some spotlight here.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right. So last week on the show, we introduced the 8 women's teams. So, I mean, the prevailing theme from last week's show, if you didn't tune in, and we agree with this, is that with this being the debut of the VLA women's division, we don't know anything about who the teams are, how good they are, or really what to expect in terms of competition level, which is awesome. That's really, really fun. But it doesn't leave us a whole lot to talk about on a show like this. So, really all I think we need to talk about on the women's side, Vince, is the format. This format of this tournament is extremely simple. It's child's play compared to the men's because it's just 8 teams. It's 2 pools of 4. The pool play format is on your screen right now. It is a 4-team bracket pool. So it's basically just a 4-team bracket. The winners of the first 2 games play, and the losers of the first 2 games play. But then all 8 women's teams go to the championship bracket. So it doesn't matter what happens in pool play. If you go 0-2, you can still win the tournament. That format is very simple. And here are the pools. Without further ado, Pool E is what we're going to call this first women's pool. We've got the Phoenix Ascension women's team. We've got the Midwest Magic out of Milwaukee. We've got the OC Resilient out of Orange County. We've got the Bluegrass Vengeance out of Kentucky. Vince, is there anything to add to this group of teams or anything more based on what we talked about last week about the women's teams? I honestly kind of don't think there is.
Yeah, I mean, not to not give the women's teams much love, but I mean, obviously the men's team's been grinding for the better half of 4 years now. The women's just getting started out. You're gonna get tons of love. Let me just tell you that.
That's
I mean,
for sure.
We're gonna have, we're really looking forward to featuring the women's side. And some of these teams are just establishing now, getting out there. I know that my team has not played one single match of competition ever. As a group, nothing official, not even a tournament locally, nothing. So the fact that we're jumping into this, head first into the deep end, I think pretty much a good majority of the teams are. But it's an opportunity to establish something and build something, and that's what all of us are trying to do right now. So as much as we say there's not a lot to talk about the women's, there's tons to talk about, and there's going to be even more to talk about after this event. There's going to be a lot of storylines to develop. There's going to be a lot of news about what we create, the format that we create, which essentially is going to be the same as the men's tier 2 right now. But we'll dive into a lot more of that as we progress into what we're going to do for next season. But not trying to not give the girls love. We want to. But right now, I mean, there's just really not a whole lot to talk about from the women's side. I mean, I guess if anything, we can, point out which logos we like best. I think that you pointed out you like Midwest Magic. I'm going to go with my cactus in Moon.
That is a great logo.
But, I mean, I think right here, I mean, we just talked about that. And, I'm really excited about what's going to happen with the women's side, and I'm really excited that they are excited to be involved with the VLA finally. So this is going to be a lot of fun to see how it all pans out.
For sure. Yeah. Tune into last week's show. We talked a lot more about sort of the women's division at more of a macro level, like what we're trying to accomplish with bringing women's volleyball into the VLA. But worth pointing out, one of the things that Vince said is that the women's division is going to operate exactly like men's tier 2. The women's teams are going to earn points. They're going to get full point value, 3 points for a 3 or 4 set win in this tournament. And they can, starting this off season, they're going to be able to play exhibitions. It's going to be like the open registration style division that men's tier 2 is, but without anybody having played each other before. We don't know any storylines. We don't really know any players yet. So that'll all get started on Friday. But it's also worth pointing out that because we don't know anything, the seeding in this tournament is completely arbitrary. It completely doesn't matter. It was just based on who signed up first. So great. The Phoenix Ascension is the number 1 overall seed. That means nothing. There's absolutely nothing to do with the seeds in this tournament because nobody has played. So it's basically completely random. And you can pick a random number 1 through 8 out of a hat and have as good of a chance of guessing the winner of this women's tournament as we do right now. So, yep, so that's women's pool E. Women's pool F, you got the Northeast Force out of Connecticut, the Madison Embers out of Wisconsin, the Kentucky Unicorns, and the Neva BB4 out of Northern Indiana. So those are the 8 teams on the women's side. Those are the 2 pools, bracket pool format. It's all on the website, but I encourage you to go check out our women's segment on last week's show where we talked about it a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, you pretty much just said it all. I mean, we're looking forward to it, but there's really not a whole lot we know about the teams, and we're going to learn a lot this weekend about them. So we're looking forward to it, and I think that a lot of the teams are really on the right track here. I think that the men's teams have kind of paved the way, shown how this thing operates, how the tier 2 structure operates, and how not even just to be successful, but just how to manage a team and be able to consistently play. I think that there's some a lot of teams that you can kind of watch and observe, and okay, this is kind of how things are done. You see it, like you talked about, how well the Madison Inferno does their operations and everything like that. Well, they turn around, they have Embers now, and they're doing a fantastic job already with social media and promoting themselves, and that's exactly what we're looking for. So teams kind of paving the way right there, other teams kind of following along and being innovative in themselves. That's what we're kind of looking for. So it's really a cool concept for the women's to get established. It's something to kind of motivate them. And I know for a fact that after this event, there's not going to be just 8 teams in the VLA after
that's
the
for
start
sure.
of next season. There is going to be a lot of teams in the VLA next season for the women's side. And the men's obviously is just exploding as well. So really exciting to see the growth here.
Absolutely. So women's tournament format, very, very simple. Just 2 pools of 4. Everybody makes the bracket, single elimination from there on out. That is all on the website. So Vince, since it's going on midnight local here for me in Chicago, even later of the people on the East Coast, I think we should wrap up with a quick little tour of the website. Now, again, this is live. It's on the VLA website right now. It is the #1 source for anything you need to know about this weekend's tournament. But so check it out here. This is where it starts off. Some basic info about where the tournament is and what the situation is for broadcasting. But then you get this table of contents. If you slow down, you click one of the buttons and you jump to whatever section. The one I want to spotlight is these schedule grids. So down here at the very bottom of the page are these schedule grids and sort of an overview of the tournament. It starts off with telling you what the pools are again and how they were seeded and what everybody's like points and current standings are. But then you go day by day, and this is the exact breakdown of what matches are happening where and when. Okay. It's important to note that the tournament starts at 7:30 a.m. Central all 3 days. But after that, at least on Friday and Saturday, the match times are not exactly set. So as soon as a match is done, the 30-minute warm-up period for the next match to be played on that court will start immediately. So if the first match is a 3-0 beatdown, it takes an hour. Okay, great. Start the next match, 30-minute warm-up, get the next match going. If the first match is a 2.5-hour 5-set banger, great. As soon as it's over, 30-minute warm-up, get the next match going. That's going to be how we're going to keep this tournament going. Get out of there before like 10 p.m. or so, which I saw people earlier complaining about the Central Division Cup, how late that went. We won't have that problem because we're not changing venues in the middle of the day and eating up a meaningless hour and a half. So that'll certainly help. But to keep things going, we're going to keep this rolling schedule. As soon as a match is done, the next match starts right away. But other than that, you can check all this out. You can see how the schedule is laid out, and it's color-coded by division or by what bracket you're playing in. So on Friday, the light blue is men's tier 2 pools, the green is men's tier 1 group play, and the sort of red pink is the women's pool play. Then as you look over to Saturday, same deal, 7:30 a.m. start, get the next matches going right away. The gray is the men's silver bracket, the gold is the men's gold bracket, and once again, the reddish pink is the women's division. And then on Sunday, a little bit shorter of a day, and because of that, we can come a little bit closer to guaranteeing match times. So we're going to schedule them right now for every 2 hours. These will not be pushed up any earlier than that, but they might be pushed a little bit later if necessary. But what you need to look at, set your calendars right now, 4 p.m. Central. 4 p.m. Central on Sunday, men's championship match. That will be absolutely nuts. And you're going to want to watch the women's championship match as well at 1:30 on Sunday. So you see here the 2 men's gold semifinals at 11:30. Then one more round of matches, including the women's championship. Then we will rearrange the gym, get that featured center court going that you saw at the Central Division Cup, and put the men's championship match online for all to see. That will be insane. That is match number 81 of the 2023 VLA Cup? 81. What are we doing?
Yeah.
Have we bitten off more than we can chew? Only one way to find out.
I don't know what I was thinking. But yeah, no, it's going to be epic. Obviously, we can't promote it as the largest and best professional level tournament ever in the United States if it wasn't. So this is it right here, and it's going to be something definitely to follow. And I know all the players are excited. There's just going to be so much volleyball, and it's just going to be such a great time. I'm really excited.
Absolutely. So like Vince said, the biggest and best professional level volleyball tournament in American history, better than any VLA event in the past, better than the PVL era, better than anything else ever attempted. This is it. The VLA Cup going down Friday, starting Friday morning and ending Sunday afternoon, live from suburban Chicago. You're in the right place here on YouTube to catch all the games. You're going to want to look at the website for all the info live updated throughout the weekend. And the Instagram, of course, is going to be ridiculously active all weekend long with all the teams playing and posting and resharing each other's stuff. So it's going to be amazing. Vince, I cannot wait to see you on Thursday afternoon, my friend.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Absolutely.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks very much for watching. Have a great Tuesday night. VLA Cup starts in 3 days. We'll see you first thing Friday morning.